and look what arrives at my door. Looks like a Stuka. Oh no, a Stuka. He's got all his stuff for show and tell time. Just what? Oh my God! Look at these little. Oh, he's got the little details done. Matt Newman would be just eating his heart out.
Eat your heart out, Matt.
I'm calling Matt Newman up right now. Wow. Rich, you've outdone. I hope Martine is going to have a heart attack. Martine won't be able to take the pressure at the Nats. Come up with a wild paint scheme yet?
I'm going to paint it the way it's...
Like a Stuka.
Like a Stuka.
You're not going to make this yellow or something.
Oh, no.
Okay, we're going to have some reality.
This is what I have to give you. Noel Drindak gave me.
Okay, that's the thing for the...
That's for you.
For my plane, okay.
And this is the spinner which you told me you were going to cut for me.
Where's the prop? You just want to cut it for...
Three-bladed prop.
Ordinary three-blade, okay.
So, there's the screw, so I'm going to really put this back in there.
Yeah, Stuka should have a three-bladed. You can't have a two-blade. You can have a jet in there anyway, or PA or whatever.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, cool. Oh, Richard, you see, this is the joy I get from the hobby, seeing one of my little chicks hatching out of the egg, becoming a real man now, building a real manly model. Not one of these common ordinary. Oh, look at, he's got the nose all scoopity-dooped. Aero epoxy light. I am so impressed. See, you really are. Look at the cowl. You really have come a long way. I don't care what Kajeski says about you.
How's that?
Oh, that looks great. Yeah, let me see the front view. Hold it up so I can see the front. Oh, yeah. See, that has, now it's a real plane.
Now it's a Stuka.
Oh, man.
It fits well, I tell you. I was happy the way
that looks good.
You know how many pieces I laminated?
Don't even tell me. You got a scrap bucket a mile high.
That you gave me?
Yeah.
I used it all. Look.
So look at, he's got the windy dashboard with the little glare. Oh, man.
Look at all these pieces.
I know. Hey. If it was easy, everybody'd be Matt Newman, you know? What the hell are you talking about?
The only thing I don't like is this.
The machine guns?
Yeah, I don't like this. I may have to do this over again.
But it's not a Stuka if you don't do this.
No, I know, but I'm not happy with the way it came out.
Is that my engine there or yours?
This is yours.
Okay.
I'm not happy the way it came out.
See? I might be able to use these in my B-25 leaving here. This is nice. This is nice. Did you get a view of this from a book or something so you can get it realistic? Let's see with the cockpit on. All right. I am so proud of you. You just can't imagine. I mean, I thought you were going to build another one of these ordinary planes. Yeah, you got to get into it, Rich. All right, look at this.
What do you think?
I think that's fantastic. That looks great.
What do you think? It looks pretty good, huh?
It looks great. What are you talking about? No matter, I'm trying to get it from a lot of different angles. That's great.
And this is light.
I'm going to put it on the scale. Give me that scale. Give me the two elevators. How much does it weigh? Let's see if you know, if you've learned to tell the truth yet.
But
Let me see it. This should be, you got dope on here too, right?
I got.
Let's see if he lies.
It should be.
Now what was the thing last year? You had a tail that was 500 grams or something?
Grams. It should be 83 grams.
83. 83 I'll buy. Oh, it ain't 83, Rich. It's 85. You better go home and sand it out. 85. That's heavy.
Yeah, but I got hinges in there.
That's definitely going to do it, though.
I got these.
Oh, man, this thing looks great. I am totally impressed. I mean, you've arrived. I can't imagine that Gene Martin isn't going to be just crazy when he sees this. Did you send him any pictures?
No, I didn't. It fits reasonably well. I'm proud of myself.
I am totally proud. Man, you better keep buying some more videos.
I'll say.
Man, I wish George was alive to see you. See, George would have loved this. He would have said, build it, man. Just don't fool with it. That canopy fits great, by the way.
It does. But you see what I did? I screwed up. See those things? I have to scrape them off. I started scraping the back, but it takes,
Yeah, I know.
You know how much time it takes?
Well, what happened? How come it... What did you just got sloppy when you painted?
No! No.
Did you do it with tape?
Yeah, of course.
No, we do this by hand. You don't do this with tape.
I put tape.
Oh, Rich. Rich, you should have brought over. I could do this in a half an hour. You do this by hand. You don't use tape. Tape, you have all these little things you got to scratch out. The machine guns look good.
You think so?
Yeah, that's going to look nice. You got a pilot for this?
No, I'm not putting a pilot.
How much money you got?
It's too much weight.
Oh, man. Let him eat his heart out. Let's see if we got a pilot for sale here. Too much weight. You're starting to sound like Billy Wurwitz. Look at this guy.
I started making...
I'm not that fat. I can go in this plane. Don't you worry, Jacoboni.
I started making wheel pants for it.
Oh, yeah, he's going to weigh it right down, Rich. Oh, he's going to... No. Oh, yeah, Rich, you got to have a pilot.
It's too much.
Man, what a wimp. After all this work, he wimps out. You know what this is like, getting to this point and putting a Fox 35 in it?
It's too much weight, I'm telling you.
With all the time he put into this stuff, you got the little thing with the cannons, the little screen for the front. That screen worked out good, huh?
No, I used a regular screen from the, you know.
I'm so impressed. I'm totally impressed. This is incredible. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's got to be fitted.
Oh, yeah. That really is good. I'm telling you. Give me my pilot back. Yeah. He's not for sale.
That's too heavy.
Just too heavy. Am I too heavy? What, are you crazy? Let's see if the boss likes it. Hey, Chickadoodle, come on out.
I started making wheel pants.
Come on, Chicky.
And then I said to myself, I got to be nuts.
Let's check out Rich's plane.
Do you know how much it's going to weigh?
He doesn't like it.
This is what I'm doing instead.
What? You want no wheel pants?
No.
You gotta be kidding me.
It's too heavy.
What's too heavy? Wheel pants?
I started making wheel pants, and then I realized how much wood I got involved.
You gotta make them, Rich. Come on.
I can't.
Rich, think of Martine. You gotta. No. There's no way.
It's too much weight.
I'll refuse to launch the plane when we go to the field. I'll just say, call up Adolf to launch this plane for you.
Matt Newman.
Matt Newman will fly in and launch it for you. Oh, man. Love those Stukas. Now, if you get Chick to approve of it, if Chicky approves of this, put it all together so we can see what it looks like. Wow. What do you think? I like it. I like it from every angle. I like the fact that you're putting an effort into things now instead of taking the wimp way of doing things. Yeah, that's good. Are they straight?
Yep. Straight as
right. You got a Ravy rudder on there or no?
No. George, God rest his soul, he told me, I don't need a Ray rudder. I go the right way.
You go the right way.
I fly the right way. You guys need a Ray rudder.
I don't know, Rich. This pilot, I don't know, he's dying to go for a ride in this plane, man.
And you want to know something? These flaps, I know what your theory is.
Yeah. No, they'll be fine. They'll be fine.
I reduced the size here, but I increased it here. So it's the same inches, the same area.
The worst that can happen, you make new flaps. Are these take-apart flaps?
Yes.
You got a pin in there? Okay, that's
now,
good.
The thing that I want to know from you is, how do you lock it in?
You just bend the little end on.
You just bend it one way?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know how, I said
you need to watch more videos, Rich. You want to amount to something in this hobby. You want to amount to a bird in this hobby. Anyway, hey, no kidding around. That is really nice. That is, you have really arrived at a point in time and place.
Now, if I could only put a good finish on it.
Yeah, well, don't go rushing it. Put some effort into it.
That's why I'm up at this.
You know, if it was easy, everybody'd have a good. Put the effort, put the ink and everything on it too.
Now, you know what I'm going to do underneath here? I'm telling you.
Go ahead. No, tell me.
I got a crazy idea.
No.
The pipe is going to drop down a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm going to put fins on the pipe and make it look like a bomb.
Make the wheel pants instead.
No.
Make the wheel pants.
Too much work, and it's too heavy.
How much is this plane? How much that fuselage weigh?
I didn't weigh it. I sanded the hell out of it.
Sand it some more.
I have the wheel pants half made.
And Rich, make 2 sets of gear. I'm telling you, without the wheel pants, it's going to look like a dopey thing. It's going to look like a ringmaster. Make them. It's an extra ounce. You got a real cardinal wing in there, a fat wing?
Oh,
So
yeah.
what are you worried about? I'll carry 70 ounces. What are you worried like an old woman?
I may have bend another set of random gear.
We'll make another set. You need to borrow the bender?
No.
Oh, that thing
It's in
looks...
the vise.
That looks like a Stuka, Rich. I'm telling you. That is...
Looks pretty good.
That is... I am...
You see my seats?
I know. Let's put all the junk together so we can see it. Yeah, that is a crappy canopy, though. Whoever molded that, boy, that's not windy quality.
I sent one
I know. Did you send one to Midgley?
to Midgley.
Leave the canopy for last. He might be able to straighten that out for you.
I sent one to Midgley,
Yeah, because that's
and
really...
I called him.
That's
several
like something
times,
for a trainer plane or something.
and he never got back to me.
Well, call him again. He's a busy man.
I know that.
Big money never... Look at a little seat belt he's got on there. He's got the little windy seat belt. The little... Oh, man. I'll tell you, I apologize. You are one special dude. He's got the cannons going on.
Yeah, but that's too much weight, you know.
Oh, listen to this crybaby.
It is. It's too...
How heavy is this plane going to be?
Well, I'm trying to go for 64, 65 ounces.
If it's 70, it won't mean anything. Just use a bigger prop. Oh, he'd be so happy in there. You need two of them, though. What do you have, a pilot with no gunner? Put Chicky in there. I bet Chicky will like it. I put in the Seafire.
Oh,
Yeah,
I saw the...
Of course.
I saw your tape.
Of course.
This is
Of course, but that's the difference. That's the difference between being, a real modeler and, Mr. Monaco or whatever you were before.
And a crybaby.
Crybaby is it? Well, he's still a crybaby. Sue told me that. No, you've done a great job. Has Mike seen this yet?
No, nobody's seen it.
Mike's got his wing all back together. We put some paint on it last week.
Oh, really? Good.
See, without all these little details, it's not even worth making. Just forget about it.
Oh, I know that. But you can't go crazy though, because you know how much all this stuff weighs?
Nothing. Not even an ounce. An ounce. How much did it all weigh?
It weighs almost 2 ounces.
What did you make it out of? Lead?
Between the instrument panel and all of these things, it almost weighs 2 ounces.
Mine weighs, I allow about an ounce for the cockpit, no more.
Yeah, well, that's the reason why, I can't go nuts here anymore. More so than I have already.
If I knew you were going to be this wimpy, I'd say extend the wing by 1 rib on each bay, and then you could make it 80 ounces. So you're looking at it only from one direction. You look at it from 2 different directions.
What do you think of this level? I have a picture of the real one.
Did you copy the real one?
Yeah.
I have a Stuka video around here somewhere in the library. A real one,
There are 2 Stukas left in the entire world.
And you got one.
No, really.
Really?
There's one in England and one in the Smithsonian Institute.
Really?
There we go.
It's going to look fabulous. Now, you're underestimating yourself. That is going to look so cool when it's done.
It's going to make Gene a little nutty.
Oh, but that's the whole idea of being in the hobby, is to make Gene nuts. I'll send him a copy of this video. That'll make him crazy.
Nah.
Tell him he doesn't know anything about stunt. What does he know? He's a school teacher. That's great.
It was pretty good.
Hey, this adds a lot to it, too.
Cow.
You better put some fiberglass over here and stuff to this.
Yeah.
The first time Peabody picks this up, there's a bunch, yeah.
I know, I loaded this up with CA.
Yes. And
Hardened it.
But when you glass the nose, glass right over that 3 times.
Yeah. Yeah, this is your engine.
No, it's okay. I don't need it yet. I got about another month of work to do over there. Hey, that's going to look cool. This is what looks good, see? The flaps out in the back.
On the back like that.
Yeah.
You know how long it took me to make that cow?
Forget it.
Almost 2 weeks.
Yeah, I know.
Carving.
But if it was easy, everybody'd have a cool plane. It's got to be hard or it's no fun.
Carving.
Yeah, carving.
And then what happened was I made one and I started carving in the wrong direction.
Uh-oh.
So I had to throw it away. I have to start all over again.
Well, I would fiberglass that whole thing.
Yeah.
Because if somebody squeezes by that lip,
Yeah, I'm going to put...
Right. Glass it on both sides even.
Inside and outside, right. Yeah, it's going to look...
That is definitely...
And then, you know what's going to be nice? This thing that I have.
Yeah, and you got the remote. I saw you got the whole
Here.
set.
You know,
This is the only one of these spinners in the world, and Rich has it. I'll cut this up for the prop.
Really? Yeah, that's the Russian one, right?
Yeah, I can't get these anymore.
That's a nice
Unless they go back into nuclear warfare or something. That's probably the front of a nuclear missile or something, who knows. But it's got the right shape.
Yeah, this is a nice spinner.
Yeah, it's got the right shape.
But I'll tell you one thing. It's not light.
Well, you're probably going to need nose weight anyway. So what with all this junk you got on the plane? That heavy cockpit?
That's the problem.
Yeah.
You know,
well, the problem is always making it light. You're not telling me anything.
That's why I can't.
These gotta go though. I ought to take these and throw them away.
No way.
So you're not So you're not like that tail. These will ruin the model if you don't make the wheel pants. You will be so sorry. You'll get laughed off the field. Peeps, should he make the wheel pants or not? Make the wheel pants. Make the wheel pants.
Look how beautiful you got.
Make the wheel pants, Richard. Don't be a wimp. Make the wheel pants.
Look how beautiful you got.
Sure, make the wheel pants. Make the wheel pants. Rich, you gotta make the wheel pants. So now that we have it on video, if you go home, and these are going to disappear before you go home.
No.
These are going bye-bye. You gotta do the pants. And fiberglass them.
You know what I may do? I may make another set of landing gear.
Just for appearance judging?
Just for the pants, with the,
Because and then we're flying on concrete in Palisade Park and you're worried about what are you going to do?
No, it's the weight. Wendy, it's the weight involved.
Oh, man, you're starting to sound like you're a nut.
That's the problem. It's the weight. I started carving the wheel pants, and then I realized I was going to add about another 2.5 ounces, maybe more. Where am I going?
Wait a minute. Let's see. Where are we going? A few wheel pants here.
Yeah, but the Stuka wheel pants are like this.
You can't cut these up somehow? I know they're fat.
See, they're like this.
These are a half ounce. So what are you talking about? Why even these are fiberglass? They're not even wood.
They don't fit. They don't fit the.
But why can't you make light wheel pants? Hollow them all out. Why is that a problem? I'm telling you, it's ridiculous. It's like if I made the B25 and I put a motor in the front instead of a. Look, he'll help you make it.
Beeps. What do you think?
You're
They have to be made so that I can get to the wheels.
Why don't you carve them up and bring them over to me and I'll hollow them out for you?
Well, the hollowing is not the problem. The problem is the way you have to make them so they're two halves, and they come apart.
Yeah, of course. We know how to do that. That's even on video. You got the video of that already, don't you? I'll get you the video. Look, to show you what a cool guy I am. Here's the wheel pan. How to take apart wheel pants video.
I don't care what people...
Oh, I'm telling you, Richard, you are some kind of guy. Look at this. Now, just so everybody knows that I'm not lying, here's the wheel pant videos. And this shows how to take apart wheel pants, and if he doesn't do... Now, picture, you see these guys with the big jets, you think these guys get all done, and they say, well, let's not make the wheel pants, it takes too long.
No, it's not a question of taking too long. It's a question of also too much weight. This is the thing that concerns me.
Well, you got the videos now. If you can't figure out how to make a set of take-apart wheel pants, Rich, you can hollow them out paper thin and glass them. They shouldn't be even an ounce. But the fiberglass ones aren't even an ounce, so how can yours be an ounce?
Mine were too heavy. I have them half made already.
Anyway, that was fun dealing with Rich, but we have stuff to work on in the shop. We have work to do. One thing always sets a model apart and makes it unique. One of the features, I think, that really sets a model apart is the lettering. For years, a lot of people have come up with a lot of different ways of doing lettering. I have my own little way that's evolved over the course of, I don't know how many years. It's relatively easy to do, and each one is an individual entity. The easiest way to do it is buy big Letra-sets. Letra-set has since gone out of business, so more than likely the ones you'll buy are already dried up and like an old banana peel, but possibly still could use them. That's a way you can do a nice lettering job in a very short time. Do relatively complex lettering like I did on Tsunami, but you have to invent it yourself. It's hard to copy stuff. You got to kind of invent it yourself. A good source of this is custom car magazines. Custom trucks, they all have drag racing. probably even NASCAR. They all have really unique lettering, and you can copy it. Did the original Strega. I did this and I did it on video. I wanted to replicate the real Strega lettering in gold leaf on the wing. Of course, we're not making a scale model, so we can kind of improvise here. And I'm going to improvise on this Miss Ashley lettering because I want this model to be unique from the original one. Miss Ashley had what I thought was a relatively nice paint job, but I don't want to make an exact copy of this. The reason is that each model to me is a little person, just like if you have children, well, I guess if you have twins it's different, but each one is just a little different. And I want to lay out what I think will be a little bit different lettering than this. And then I can decide if I like it or not. If I don't like it, I can sand it off and do it over. Possibly the master of all lettering jobs, Will Prey, who does this professionally. Custom cars, dragsters, and things like that, custom motorcycles, whatever. Now this would be out of my league, but Walt has certainly set a standard, a high bar to, I don't think anybody's going to ever jump over it, because this is such artwork just to lay it out in your mind. And each one is unique. Each one, it's not something you go on a computer, pick out a font, and then have your little mask made up. But of course, and I just want to lay this out, like to pick a font, have a mask made. The only problem with that is every once in a while you go to the Nats, you find somebody who's got exactly the same thing you have, and to me that kind of, I kind of like the idea that each one is different, each one's unique. Ones I've liked over the years, Bill Rich always comes up with some nice lettering, and he always fades it in on his SV11 series. Bob Hunt has had some, but of course Bob Hunt is totally professional about it, has the mask, has written articles about it. Again, the lettering, Ted Fancher, we're just looking at an example, the lettering very delicate. Everybody has a thing they'd like to achieve with the lettering on a model. The original Brodak Cardinal prototype, I wanted the lettering. See, the difference is I wanted it to have a constant barrier here and a constant distance from the tree line. So the lettering actually gets bigger and gets smaller. Now doing that means really difficult you probably could. Somebody that's really computer literate or has CAD/CAM programs could figure this out. But it's not that difficult to lay it out in blocks. When you're laying it out, it gives you the advantage of you can move the lettering over relatively easily before you commit to any of this. Now the reason I took the Miss Ashley wing and painted it white is because I want to leave the tape around each letter until the whole job is done. In other words, I'm going to mask off what will be the white borders, paint the black, then back mask the black and paint the wing. Again, the advantage of this is I don't have 3 coats of doping spots and 4 coats and 2 coats and edges. It'll keep the edges to a minimum. Everywhere there's a white edge, there'll be just a little bit of a gap. I could fill that with clear. It'll make the buffing and sanding go a lot quicker. I look back at this was the first time I had ever lettered anything with masking tape, and I did this with Harold Price's assistance. He helped me lay it out, and I'm telling you, when I was done with this, I was just as proud as if I had just bought a new Cadillac. Use the method that Kent Ticer and Rich Jacobone used. They have a stencil made up and it's actually a press-on letter, and that's very attractive, but the problem with these, they tend to be thick. When you run your hand over it at appearance judging, you can feel the edges, so the only negative side of that. Really nice lettering jobs Bob Dixon has done here, put a nice paint job and everything. But notice, it actually becomes a part of the model, how you lay out the lettering. It's a very significant thing. The lettering on a model is really one of its defining features. We go back to 1966, and I won a 64, I don't even remember what year it was, but I was young there. If I knew back then what I know now, I would have dropped out of the hobby and gotten into computers, whatever. But anyway, the point that I want to make is this was like maybe the second, third, or fourth lettering job I had ever done, all done with masking tape, and I've kind of adapted into a little system that I use. The advantage of it is, number one, there's no cost of the mask. There's a roll of tape is all you need, a couple of rolls of tape. It's relatively labor intensive, but
but infinitely variable, and each model then is a unique entity. Everyone is just a little different. Original Strega that had the gold leaf lettering, that's on video for anybody that wants to do some real gold leaf. Now, many people had told me not worth pursuing. Gold leaf is very difficult to do or impossible or whatever, but, well, it worked for me and it worked well, and that lettering actually still looks pretty good after, it's going to be 8 or 9 years. Even though the thing's been repaired, it's still in pretty good shape.
Miss Ashley has this incredible lettering that I made a copy of for the first model. I'm not going to do that because if I already have that done, and I always feel like once I do something once, I need to move on. I just don't want to, like if you're on an adventure quest and you discover America, you don't see Columbus going back to Spain and saying, gee, I think I'll go to America again. Although that's exactly what he did. I don't know, maybe he should have went and discovered Antarctica or something. But anyway, this is the defining feature of the model. The lettering on the wing is not scale, so if it's not going to be scale, we can make it as unique as we want.
Decided right in the beginning that the original Miss Ashley, the one with the carbon fiber fuselage, had a life of its own. You know, like anything, it lived its life. Its life is over. It's in England now, in Elliot Scott's house, the parts of it. And this is a new Miss Ashley, so we just want to have just a little bit different personality without making it totally different. We want it to be a sister, but not a twin. Really do some exotic lettering, build a scale model of a semi-scale model of the Red Baron. Got to go answer the phone here. Look at all these old lettering jobs. Let me get to the phone. Now, Michael Ferguson laid out all of this lettering and stuff for Jimmy over the years. I know he did a couple for Paul Walker that were similar. He did some for Bill Rich. But the key thing that I like, and it's just my own personal thing, it's not something I would say everybody do. I like every model to be that unique, just like a person, like a child, like an app, like Peeps. That it's a unique thing. And the lettering certainly contributes to that personality. Now over the years, I've liked to use 1/8 inch or 1/4 inch tape to outline all my paintwork in various colors. The reason is it gives me a break point. And if it's done the way I'm going to show, it means the lettering job. There's never a point where two colors meet without having a little border of silver or gold, or in this case what we're doing right now, white. And so by making it, in this case, Bill's got his lettering going down one stripe of the wing. There's always different ways you can look at it. Robbie's Europa has silver lettering here on a yellow background. You just look at how many choices. Talk about Todd Lee. Todd Lee's about 10 years old here. Holy crow. These young guys are grown men now. That's hard to believe. And these men aren't getting younger by the day. Anyway, let's get down to shop. Let's get some lettering going. I'm inspired. The only guy among us that's getting younger is John Brodak. John, you still look good for a guy 52 years old. But this is something you have to avoid like the plague before you lay a lettering job. I laid this out with Lou Debke's help, and you can see the word sweeper is over there. It also had the letters FAI, then a space, and then the two letters LJ, which stands for Large James. But if you looked at it when I laid it out, I didn't put enough space, so in effect what it said is FAIL. It looked like the word fail. So you want to look at what the possibility, if you're going to do a lettering job, that you don't create something that you're not starting out to create. Doing anything semi-scale, then you're kind of locked into the lettering, but in the case of a model like a Miss Ashley, where it's not totally scale, or we're not even trying to make it totally scale, we have a lot of choices. And we can get ideas from all the books we have, from just looking at old videos, looking at pictures. There's always good ideas to be had. Before I lay out a lettering job, here are the choices. Usually, you will have two possibilities, unless you're building a Vico Chief. You'll have a rake in the leading edge, and a straight line going across the trailing edge. So that one of the possibilities is that your lettering, you can measure up from here to here and measure up from here to here. But the lettering, each letter will tend to get bigger, like it's three-dimensional. It'll be bigger here, then get smaller, smaller, smaller.
The other choice you have, and I've done this both ways have advantages and disadvantages in terms of looks. You can make a box where every letter is exactly the same. Now what's always good, if you have a set of plans to the plane, and by now, because you've built the plane, you're probably done with the plane, you can do something like this, and I've done this, or you can just get an extra set of plans. You can take the wing plan form and lay out whatever this model is going to be called. You can lay it out in terms of this way. And then you can lay it out where the letters get bigger. And again, this only takes minutes really to do it. So you can decide, do you like it that it's getting bigger, or do you want it to be the same? You can also get a scale this way. You could actually cut the letters out of colored paper and move them around on the plane by doing this, and say, well, maybe you want the whole thing angled up like this, which can be effective. You want the letters laying down like that. It seems like most trim jobs on most planes tend to do this. And if you look back to 85, a plane, I won the concourse that year, but it had trim similar to this, and I think that was one of, if you look before 85, you don't see any like this, so I don't know if anybody copied me. They never paid me, though, if they did. But you certainly have a lot of choices here. The thing is, by laying it out several different ways, or if you had to trim on the leading edge, or if you had a kind of a thing going on in the leading, you want to make this decision before you go and lay out tape. Mind, you want to lay, this is how I think anyway. You got a cardinal. Let's make a pretend plane up. If the trim goes over the hinge lines, it's going to add a lot of work. So most people try to lay out trim that doesn't go through hinge lines. That's, but if you've decided you want this stripe going through there and you're going to pay the price, well, more power to you. But most people try to avoid going through hinge lines. Also, it's a lot more work if you go around edges. If you notice, a lot of people do trim. Well, whatever. Just as an example, it never goes through a hinge line or around an edge. This, if it's your first time doing a lettering or a trim job, this is certainly one of the things to consider to make it easy and cost-effective and a reasonable amount of time. Just doing something like that. Another thing, too, Steve Busso used to do, and I love it, he used to take little side views of the planes, make Xerox copies and lay out different trim schemes, get colored pencils and pens. He laid out many paint jobs for other people, including Mike Rogers and Bob Barron. But if you do this, the trick here is to figure out, how do you want to do this paint job? Because there's, just to make a quick analogy of, if you make it in the simplest terms, this is what most paint jobs amount to. And I'll just use a wing as an example. There's some trim. And there's a base color, basically. Now, if you decide that this color is going to be red, or pink in this case, and the color around it is going to be green, and this is where you can save time, or you can make yourself crazy. Okay, now what you want to do is look at it and say, the one scenario you never want to have is you never want to paint the plane red and then try to paint white on top of it, or yellow, or paint the plane black and then put trim on. So the easiest thing for me is, in this case, is take the smallest amount of trim. If we outline it with tape, and we're going to leave that tape edge, the base color of either silver, or in this case it's going to be white. We lay this out in tape, backmask it with aluminum foil, and I spray this area. Once it dries overnight, I can backmask this. Now look at what I'm just doing. I can paint the whole rest of the plane. Wow, that's real easy, quick. It also has a benefit if there's no double paint over here. So I always want to lay out the trim in my mind. I want the trim done first, because backmasking the trim is a piece of cake. The other way, you would have to, if you painted the whole plane this color, you would have to backmask basically the whole plane to paint this. So thinking this through, coming up with a couple of ideas. In our case, we want to do the lettering first, backmask the lettering, and then paint the wing. The wing is going to be red. But that's just the easiest way I know to do it. Just had in the last couple of weeks a run of weather we're right coming up on Christmas here, and today I think it's 77 degrees here. But yesterday I got out here real early. Real late. I wanted to put the white for my backdrop, and I had done some work on a tip weight box, so I got that out here in the sun cooking. It's still going to need a couple extra coats of silver and sanding, but because of time management now, I'm not locked into that silver, because all I'm going to do is work lettering. So at the end of the day, I can just go sand that, do some more silver. I can touch up a little spot up here I have to fill. I can fix the fill. Doing the lettering is good time management because I'll get all of that out of the way, and at the same time I can be fixing anything that's not in the lettering. I can be fixing little spots in the silver. So when it comes time to paint the wing, I'll have it as good and as floor-less or floor-free. I don't know. Free floor, floor-free. Dental floss. I don't know. You can tell I didn't pay attention in school because I was dreaming of model planes. What I like to do before I'm going to do a panel, because I just want to get just a little M600. I just want any fuzz or dust or anything that's on here, because this will just make the tape edges, but they're not going up over mountains. It'll get a lot of that roughness out before I actually even lay out the lettering. I can get these panels. This is 1200 sandpaper. Just a fine dusting. I'm not looking to sand through in any spots. Because this gives me a palette to work with now. And that should be ready. Also, the M600 acts as a degreasing agent, so you don't have all the schmutz from this phone. I'll never get this done today. Which I cut up a paper pattern. I start to look at MISSASHLEY. Well, I can see this is too big. It's not going to work. I'm not going to have any space. And I want space between the letters, so I could trim this until I see roughly. Again, this is a rough. Like a rough-in. I can just look at this in my mind. That looks a little closer to what it should be. And it looks like, and what I need to do, now here's just an example, because I'm going to run out of room here, I'll have to improvise a little bit. I'll move this out just a little bit further out to the tip. Again, once I lay this out, then I'll transpose this box over to the other wing and work within that box if possible. Now I can lay this out with some 1/4-inch tape in between just to get an idea of how these letters actually will lay out. Now you can already see that we have to make an adjustment, and that's perfectly normal. MISSASHLEY. I'm missing a letter. So what it's telling me now, this is not a big deal to do. Every once in a while, you get nervous about these things. I'll just clip another, maybe a 1/4 inch off the letter. And now what I'll do is, again, starting at one end. First, I'll make sure I'm at 90 degrees here before I go laying out the whole thing. Okay. Now I just simply take each piece of tape and adjust it. I do a little adjustment. Then you can use masking tape. You can cut this any thickness. This is why it's nice to sand down a wing, because the tape will come right off real easily. And none of the tape that we're putting on the wing right now is going to be an edge for paint. Now see what happens. Now I've got every one adjusted. This is going to be the thickness of the lettering. And by the way, the reason for using the tape for thickness, the overall thickness, is when we backmask it, we'll just lay tape out. It just makes the backmasking go in a tenth at a time, as if you made it. If you make it a 64th of an inch bigger than a piece of tape, that's when you run into a problem. Now, as I go right out, I know this will work. Yeah, of course. See, now each one is, I'm going to be gaining as I move these over. This gives me an infinite adjustment to lay out the lettering. And when the lettering is laid out, to suit your needs, and you're happy with it, then you backmask the letters. That's the easiest part. But laying this out, now if you were a real artist, if you were Walt Prey, say, you could do this in your mind. You could just look at it and say, oh, that's right, that'll be too big. But for a person like myself that doesn't do this all the time, this allows me to have the same finished product that somebody that's really a highly skilled person has. And in this case, the lettering tapers with the wing, so that's going to be a nice little, just a little nicer than if they were all square and they look like sugar cubes or something. And this will, obviously, you can gain this infinitely, shorten or lengthen this, or if the letters get too tall, you can move them closer together. Then when I'm all done, I'll take a piece of paper and write what my dimensions are from the trailing edge, from the tip, so that I can replicate this box onto the other wing exactly. And at this point in time, this is probably going to consume a half hour, 45 minutes or whatever, but I'm basically putting the whole personality of the plane. I will not get to the gnats and find somebody with exactly this shape of lettering, or an exact copy unless they watch the video and they want to give me a hard time, which basically everybody in the event wants to do. But that's okay. We enjoy being the bad guy to a certain degree, like Zorro or something. Okay, now you can see if I don't get this, I'll have to extend it. But this is the way I've done a lot of the lettering jobs, and a lot of these have gone on to be, relatively successful anyway. This from a lot of different angles. The thing I don't like is it's starting to look too big. So, because I've got very little labor involved in this right now, what I'm going to do is make the letters a little bit thinner and make them a little bit smaller. They just have the look of that I was trying to avoid, is that the lettering gets too big and too dominant. But because I don't have a lot of, I didn't have a stencil cut. See, already I'd be out the time and energy to make this, and the money maybe. Right now I can just pull all the tape, move this tape down one thickness of tape. In fact, maybe I'll move the bottom up halfway and the top halfway, and I'll relay this out in a way that it's going to appeal to me a little bit more. Now again, that's all personal taste stuff. Taking all the tape off, I decided I wanted to try another thing. I wanted to try laying the lettering down instead of making it perfectly square, so this gave me another opportunity. I shortened the back, one thickness of tape, shortened the template. Now I'm laying all the letters down on about maybe an angle that's parallel to the wingtip. Because these wingtips rake down like the scale plane, by having these letters on it. Again, I can lay this out all day long. And by the way, this blue tape is from Home Depot. This is the tape that never pulls the paint off. You would never want to do this as masking tape. That tape is not sticky enough. The paint will bleed right underneath it. I think that's what Rich Jacobone used, because all the paint bled under his canopy. But on a layout like this is perfect, because there's no problem with ever pulling up the paint with this. Having said that, the next time I pull the tape up, the paint will go right down the raw rib. So let me lay this out and see if I like this laid out. Again, I have pretty much the rest of the day to just lay this out. This is a part of the job that I find very interesting, and because I know that I'll be looking at this lettering. In the case of the first Miss Ashley, I looked at it for quite a long time, a lot of flights, and it really was a defining part of if you get this right, the rest of the plane seems to flow. If you get this wrong, even the best model looks terrible. Look at this from several different angles and see if I like the fact that one of the things, it picks up the angle. And one of the things Lou Debke used to say is that trim should impart motion. Now, because these wingtips come, if we had cardinal things, I'd put the lettering the other way. But this, I kind of like the way this looks. It's on a little bit of an angle. I don't even know what the angle is. This would be, well, there's a triangle. It's like about 10 or 15 degrees. Anyway, but now the difficult part of this whole job is going to be, not difficult, but I measure up from here to here, from here to here, here to here, and here, and make that same box, just the outline of the box, because the lettering will be different. I want that box on the outboard wing. A little note of this box, just how big, I need the dimension from here to the fuselage side too, so that I can transpose this on the other side, and of course on the bottom of the plane too. I always like to put, when I do something like this, put it on the floor and see if I'm going to like it, if it's going to complement the wing, which I think in this case it does. Well, the only thing, before I go to the next step, I want to flip this over and lay out the boxes on the bottom, because it's easier to do the measuring while I have all this tape in place, and I need to just flip it over. And notice one of the things is the lettering here is a little bit shorter because it'll say USA and my AMA number with a gap, but it's not quite as long, so I've tried to center it, and I've done that by eye, so that I don't have something all out to one side or the other. It kind of balances. And Lou Debka had a funny saying. I asked him one time why he named his plane the Matrix. He says because it balances out his AMA number. Now, I'm sure I'm not going to that length, but I kind of like the way that looks. And this will leave us a little room out here to put our tribute to Gary Levitz or to whomever. In this case, it may even be to George Aldrich. I don't know. We always make that decision later on in the plane. Anyway, I'll lay out the bottom, and I will be ready to lay out our lettering. This sheet is so handy, just to reference it. I can work right off of that. And then I'll save this, and I'm also going to save I have it up here, the piece that has the angle. So if I want to replicate this or repair it, I have this angle here, and on the opposite wing it flips so that all the angles come back at the same angle. So this will be handy to have, and we want to save that in our box of Miss Ashley's stuff. Thinking, why even put the lettering on the bottom? Well, there's a reason. The reason I like to have the lettering on the bottom, in the maneuvers, it looks symmetrical. I think it adds a little bit of symmetry to it. And also, the other part that I like is people that don't do the lettering on the bottom. I think people flip the plane over to judges and they say, he didn't letter the bottom. Oh, deduct the plane. I don't know that they do that. I shouldn't really say that, but I just have the feeling this way they can't accuse you of trying to take what has now become the rich jacobone, I'm not going to make the wheel pants way of getting away with things. Well, Rich, I have to tell you got to make the wheel pants. When you build one of these models, you got to do the homework. Hasn't seen Ted Fancher's plane on the bottom of it in exactly the same lettering as he has the word Final Edition. He has Thanks Shireen, and I thought that was kind of cool too, but I don't, if we were doing a Cardinal, I might think of doing something similar to that for Karen, but on a Miss Ashley thing, I don't know. It just doesn't seem to coordinate with it. You know, on a Typhoon, you can't have written on a wing, thanks, I don't know. Just a little bit different. But that's the beauty of this event. Just look at this picture. The beauty of this event. How many different styles, how many different types of lettering, inking, painting, buffing. No matter what you like, there's room for you in this hobby. From the most simple to the most complex to something that what I like is when it looks complex, but it really isn't. What I chose to do with all these boxes masked off, what I chose to do is just have another cup of coffee and wake up here. I want to outline everything, and I want the outline to be white, of course. It looks like I'm fading away here. I may have to touch that up. But now I can make a decision here, and the decision is kind of simple. Once I have the boxes in place, I like this. I like real masking tape. I don't like the green stuff for this reason. When you get the green tape in the corners, you never seem to, it always leaks underneath. This seems a little more pliable. Well, what I want to decide is how thick do I want to make each letter. Now, I have a lot of choices. I can lay one letter out, and by the way, I laid this out so Miss Ashley is on the bottom, reversed from what it is on the top. In other words, on the top wing, Miss Ashley is going this way, on the bottom it's going this way. Just for no reason at all, just because I was bored. Now I need to, oops, this is the decision I have to make. The blue tape again is good. This is Home Depot tape, by the way. And I need to figure out if I'm going to be happy with letters this thick. Now what if I am, what's going to happen is, and it's real easy to do this, I can take 2 pieces of tape, because I just want to lay this out and look at it. Just roughly. Now, oops, there I go. You ever notice how when the camera's on, everything goes wrong? I want to look at this in several thicknesses. So what I can do now, I can take it over to the cutting pad. This would be the true thickness of the letter. Get the cutting pad here. Again, this is one of the times you want to really use brand new blades. Now I want to cut on this side. And what this will give me is the amount of the lettering that will not be covered by the white. Then when I back mask, 1 piece of masking tape will cover the whole letter, and that's what I'd like to. So this takes a long time if you don't have that choice. Now there's my piece with another piece here. This just lets me lay one letter out and get a look at, do I like that thickness? Now the advantage again, the objective here is when I go to backmask this, I take 1 piece of tape, I backmask the whole thing in 1 stroke of the pen. So if possible, I would always choose a standard size like this. Now what I can do is make myself up a paper template, now that I know this is the size, out of ordinary office paper, so I can start laying, or I could just find tape. In this case it would be 1/2-inch tape. I just don't happen to have any. That was that thickness, and I could lay the letters out any way I want. But that gives me a choice. Now if I wasn't happy, let's just say for instance, you want to have some real exotic looking lettering, real thin, or thin going one way, wide the other way. This is the beauty of this, doing it this way, is you really can be creative. You really don't spend, I think, a couple rolls of tape, probably a couple of dollars for the whole thing, and it'll never be that somebody shows up unless somebody really copies you, and I don't suspect that would ever happen. So what I'm going to do is just start out on one side, lay the lettering out, and then pull off the box around it and see if I like it. That'll be the test here. I probably won't get to do any painting today. This, I usually allow a whole day to do this laying out, and I just get comfortable, relax, put some videos on. This is just time, just like serving time. Pattern up like this. What this is going to allow me to do, let's hope I'm not lying, I can take an ordinary piece of tape now with those little holes there. Obviously the tape will wear out at some point in time. We'll just replace the tape. But now I have the thickness, and I can start laying out each letter individually. Here, this is the letter U. This is the AMA number with USA in front of it, which, by the way, is the new rule. In F2B, you have to have that instead of, it used to be N. So first, by working in each block, and in the beginning, the reason I like to try to do this all in 1 or 2 sessions is what happens after you're working for a while, you get a nice little rhythm going, and it goes quickly. First time you do it, it may take a little extra time, but sooner or later, all of a sudden it just goes. Like a lot of things in life, just doing it a few times really gives you confidence too that you can do it. Now, when I get to the bottom, since this is the letter U, I need to lay out the bottom, peel this up, and I can put little hooks and edges like I did on Mike's lettering, which I thought was kind of nice. We can kind of change the lettering as we go, make it fancier. And since you're only really using the tip of the blade, what happens, it wears out. So you have to be aware that, just be willing to buy some blades, which I don't know why people resist the idea. They want to use a blade until it's a nub. hard to convince people of the value of having new blades. But anyway, I'll do one of these letters totally on, just to show to multiply it by 600 and you've got the plane. And we've already tried, we've used the frisket method, we've used different stenciling methods that work probably with every degree of success. But this happens to be a way that I just feel like the advantage of this way is anybody can do it. And you have that instant, infinite variability. You're never locked in. I've done that. I've had a whole stencil cut, like $30 or something. Come home, play it on a plane. I said, don't like the way it looks, too big. Well, what do you do with it now? Okay, now there's just one of the letters. And I'm just going to work my way down a wing here, lay out. Notice I'm doing the bottom first, because the bottom just tends to drag along. By the time I get to do the top, this will just be going one right after another. The important thing is to get the fingernail down in the corners. Where one tape overlaps the other, there's always a little area where the paint can go underneath. Now here's another nice thing about, if you're doing tissue right now, ooh boy, does this get to be a delicate thing. Hey, you can really lean on this a little bit. Now that's ready for the edging of clear. I'm not going to do the clear until I finish it all. And like I said, the phone never stops ringing here. It's cool. Here's the thing, I want to take a little license and make the A have a curve to it. Well, I can lay it out that way. If I don't like it, well, I can make it square. Problem is, if you make a stencil or a mat and you don't like it, it's another $35. Or if you have your friend do it, that's even better. But I really do like this way of laying it out. Get to a place like this where it's really difficult. You can't bend the tape without putting a wrinkle in it. So what I try to do is just take ordinary masking tape, rub it on my shirt once, lay it out here, and in essence make a little pattern out of that piece, of which I can do probably by hand as well as anything. And I can cut this away. Anything with a really severe curve, it's easier to do it that way. A lot of times, see, I just wanted to eyeball this and look and see if I like the amount of edge that was shown. A lot of times you just have to do it by eye. And there's something good about laying it out by eye instead of mechanically, because by eye, you find things that you're not really happy with, or if that curve was wrong. And I kind of like that because I can copy that A into the Ashley. And I'll try to pick up that curve into this part of the 7. What do you want? What do you want? Get out of here. You're supposed to be helping me. Never hire a bird to help you do lettering. Anyway, when you're doing will you shut up? When you're inventing your own lettering, again, if you don't like it, just peel the tape up. What do you want? Wendy, do some better lettering! See, now I like the way those two curves kind of match and they come to it together. Even like the angle there. Again, this is kind of, I could picture somebody that's a professional like Walt Troy would be doing this by eye and probably get it right the first time. Well, it just takes me longer. And knowing that possibly you'd have to look at this lettering for year after year, or someday if it gets retired, if it makes it to the retirement in the Spitfire bedroom, or the Miss Ashley bedroom, or whatever. Now that I kind of like, again. I look at it from far away. I laid it out on the floor. I think that package, we want to continue some of this kind of a curve into the 2, so this kind of matches. I want to kind of get that to mirror image, even though it's not exactly the same. A few times because I wanted it to kind of look like it flowed. What I'm trying to do here is get this to mirror out on this side. Again, you're not going to find this lettering thing in, you know, in a computer thing of all the fonts, but if you have a printout of several fonts, you could steal ideas from them, that's for sure. Once you get going on this, it seems to take on a life of its own. It moves right along. And if you constantly have a new, fresh blade in the knife, you find out it'll pay good dividends. At the end, you'll have nice, crisp, sharp edges. Well, we got this roughed in. I'm not sure how much of it we like or if we want to change any of it, but now what I'll do, I'll switch over to the side and do the Miss Ashley lettering, and then I'll look at the whole thing as a unit and see if there's anything else. Obviously I could change it at any point in time right up to the point where we paint it. But so far it's given me a little bit of the look that I wanted. Working this side out and I can see what the balance looks like. I had a couple of ideas I wanted to do. I wanted to take and put a longer tail on the A for Miss Ashley so it would look like a capital letter. I wasn't sure if I could get away with doing something like that to the 7 or to the A. I'm just thinking, maybe. I don't know, but I'm going to look at doing something real fancy. As I'm laying out each letter, I'm getting a little more comfortable with the idea. Each one, these are unique letters, it's just, and every time I do this, it's like hatching a new egg. You don't know what's going to come out of the egg. But the egg, he's got a grape now. I had grapes for lunch. Hey, Chicky, Buzz Brodak's going to eat you for Thanksgiving. Anyway, he keeps me good company while I'm doing these long, long nights. And what I did, I let the tail, just to make it a little more artistic, and the part of the A come forward. Now what I need to do is figure out how I want to balance that out, possibly with the 7. Would make sense. The 7 should be the bigger of it'd be only the 7 would come down, and I'm bringing it down to within the bottom of the tape. Now what I'll have to do then I'll pull all the extra tape off around it and then lay it down on the floor and look at it from the top view to see if I'm happy with all the curves, all the angles. See, the idea is I want this plane to have a personality, like children. I always think of these planes as children. Each one just a little bit different, and you love them all. One of the lettering jobs, just as an example, something I try to get cued on, where the X and the executioner and the EXP kind of outlined the letters. After I got done with hundreds of hours of masking, I said, I didn't really care for it. Let's hope this one is not going to be like that. Now, whether that's going to ultimately balance it out or I'm not sure, we're going to look at it. Again, we can be pretty creative here. Now, the only thing that's going to be different when I flip the wing over, the 8 will be out here, they'll be reversed. In other words, the word Miss Ashley is going to start with the M out at the tip and wind up with the Y up here. So we'll have to take that into account, maybe make a small change on it. But because it's a custom lettering job, I don't know, the 7 I think is going to stand out real well. Again, we're going to find out. Next step here is going to be to pull off all the tape around it and kind of look at it, lay it on the floor, look at it and say, gee, do we like this or should we try again? Now I can look at it in a way that you can see it from the top view, decide if I like it, and what changes I want to make, if any, to the top, because again, the big part is going to be over here, so it's going to be different, but it'll be very similar. I like having the 7 a little larger than life there. And also the way that the tail drops down on the Miss Ashley, I think that's going to work out real well for us. The top blank, and I know I have a fresh palette here to work with. I can kind of look this over and see what, if any, changes I really want to make on this. Now, try as I might, I tried to finish this up before it was time to turn in. Well, Karen has advised me it's time to turn in, but we're going to finish this up tomorrow. Hey, in today's mail, I was looking forward to seeing these. This is from Al Raby, and I'll read his note. This is his new 110% Bearcat, which with a few minor modifications. The wing is moved forward 3/4 of an inch. It's pretty much the same as the Classic, which flies very competitively. And we really do like the way Keith Trossel's Bearcat flew. If this is even similar, it'll be really nice, of course. It's made with all laser cut parts, jig pockets, molded shells, leading edges. Can be on the gear in about 60 hours, and he says he has his own canopy mold. Anyway, really nice. Let's see what the side view looks like here. The side view of this looks, well, very similar to the original one, only it's much larger, and of course has a Sato 72. And thanks to Al. Down here real early this morning because I had a pretty simple goal. We have another one of these days that it's supposed to be real nice. And I figured maybe I could possibly, if I get started early, I'll finish this lettering up. I may even get the back masking done, and I hope that's what's going to happen. See, it's the fine-tuning now, once I get all the paper up, and then trying to make this side, even though the lettering is different, I want to look at it for several times and see how, like the ends on the A. Again, I'm looking, maybe I'll make the M a little longer here. It's this part of it that just seems to take up such an incredible amount of time in my, the way I do this. But if I get this airbrushed in this afternoon, or even late this morning, I will then have an open time. I can get that 38 airbrushed onto the tail. And so what I'm trying to do is plot so that something is drying while I'm working on something else I'm not going to run into. And an example would be if I got down here at 6 o'clock this morning, and this was already backmasked off, and at 10 after 7 I painted it, well, I can't put masking tape on that for 24 hours. So what would have happened is I've lost a day. Or then I can go out and rake leaves or, wash windows or something. But I always try to keep one of the modeling projects that while this is drying, I could work on that little tail section of 38s. And I already have the little pattern that John Pothier sent me for that replication of the original. A lot of times when I start up in the morning like this and I have a cup of coffee, I try to get some work done right away. And once I was doing this, and it was really funny, I got all done with it, and I looked down and I had spelt, whatever I was spelling was wrong. And it wasn't obvious, and I almost was ready to start backmasking it before I realized it. So what I do, and it's really funny because of my extensive education in spelling, every time I'm doing this, I go back and say M-I-S-S, M-I-S, and a lot of times, I'm just not confident that it's spelled right. So again, I'll start off by going M-I-S-S-A-S-H. You'd be surprised, letter sets. When we used to do letter sets, Lou Dudka, I guess his education was about the same as mine. Must not have been paying a lot of attention in school. And we would get together and either by my house or his house and letter set a plane between us on a Saturday or a Sunday. And he'd take one wing, I'd take the other wing, and Glenn Medard take the tail or something, and we'd start letter setting away. And some of the dumb things we had on the bottom of the plane, we'd have no step. Now, who's going to step on the bottom of a plane? Yeah. But that was in, well, probably in the best time of my whole life, the time we had years ago. But if I plan this out right, what it means is that today I will be able to get both the 38s and this airbrushed while they're both drying. I have my little hit list over there of jobs left to be done. Nothing aggravates me more, and it's happened many times that I've gotten down the shop, done something, and then had to wait for paint to dry the rest of the day, and I'd just be straining at the bit, and I'd have it just very aggravating. I'm a very concerned about using the time that I have effectively, and I'm not sure why. I'm so old, it probably doesn't even matter. I'm not sure why I am like that. Anyway, when I used to have a real job at Ford Motor Company, one of the things that I used to do was time studies and have to do scheduling of very complex computer operations, so I'm always concerned with how much time can this be running, and while that's running, can we run something else? And what it's ultimately allowed me to do is build more models, or the ones that I have built, spend more time on them without really being retired or anything. I mean, it's cheating if you're retired. If you get up in the morning and you don't have some alternative thing to do, it's just plain cheating. Anyway, I'll finish the rest of this. And it's this back and forth part, and I guess there just isn't a way of making it simpler. You got to do it, look at it, lay it on the floor, look at it. I guess the same way an artist would look at the palette as he's working it out on the field. I've watched George Venturini paint, and he just looks at things for 400 and changes them and moves them. But it's such a focal point in a model that it really is worth spending this time. I really feel like this is one of the things, the first thing somebody's going to see when they see this model, the lettering. The same way they're going to see the canopy or the cowl fits or something like that. One more panel done. Now I just need to look at it, and I don't know, I kind of like the way it sweeps. It accents the sweep of the wing. It kind of, with the M bigger, it kind of goes back. Anyway, when I do something like this, I respect people that do this for a living even more, how they have to lay this out. And like the lettering on a real Miss Ashley, oh boy, if you look at those original videos with the gold, oh man. Labor intensive, but I really think worth it. There we go. Well, once you get to this point, I'm hoping I'm not going to rush through this, because it won't be long and we'll be airbrushing another hour or so. But this just labor intensive. There's just nothing here. You could be, dilly-dally and daydreaming, whatever. But you really do have an infinite control of how you can lay out, and of course you could lay out any kind of graphics or trim or whatever. It wouldn't matter. Alright, finish up this panel and then we'll be ready to airbrush. Basically the same thing. Finally have all the masking done. Kind of satisfied with the way the lettering laid out. I think it'll complement the lines of the plane as that carries down. Of course, it's a little bit different on the top and bottom because of the reverse of the angles again. Now I'm ready. The next step on this is going to be to outline both sides of this. As I go along, I'm going to press each letter down, my fingernail getting all the corners. So here's where you have a problem. Where the tape comes together, you got to get both of these corners together, and I get it. The thinnest brush I have with a thin coat of 50-50 clear and thinner around all the edges. And then that'll dry for a couple of hours. While that's drying, I can be working on something else. I just got a call from Bob Zambelli, who has downloaded what I hope will be one of the final versions of the B-17. So I'm excited about that. Maybe in a couple of days we'll have that, and he's done it up in two versions, an 800-inch version and a 900-inch version. That just gives me something to dream about here while I spend, I guess, roughly an hour maybe outlining the edge of this. I always try to make the mix about 50-50. It doesn't have to be any thinner or thicker than that. The thinnest brush I can find. I don't want to make a big line. I just want to get right on the edge. Most of the dope can go right on the tape, in fact. I just need to get it out. But there's a problem here. If you were to spray this today and then not let it dry overnight, you always want to let dope dry 24 hours before you start pulling up tape. Well, the reality is we could pull the tape up quicker than that because the edges are not going to come up. But I don't like to risk it. One bad edge, it just ruins the whole job. And there's some spots on here where I may have to touch, I always have to touch something up. Today I can build a plane without touching it up. I'll let you know. I'll call you. Anyway, this is nice and relaxing and enjoyable as it should be. Gives me a little time to daydream and think about other things. Think about that 38 on the tail. Now luckily I had that out on my computer files. John Pothier did the layout of that. And we just had to print an update, and he showed me how to scale it up and down on the computer, so I'll be able to make small adjustments to that if I want to when I lay that out. Anyway, this gets kind of redundant, kind of boring. But there's always the excitement. Once a plane gets to this level, it starts to look and feel like working on an aeroplane instead of on parts. Now that the kids are in their house and they're all settled in, it's really nice and relaxing to just come down here and do this kind of work. Anyway, some people, if you paint really dry, you can get away without doing this. Sometimes if you use the green tape and they're all straight lines, you can avoid it, but it's just such cheap insurance to do this. Notice that I'm doing both sides too, because once I backmask this, I don't want to have to redo this. This can be dry an extra day that way. Before I start backmasking, see, I'm checking around the edge. Every edge should have that thin coat of clear. And a trick to doing this is to paint the tape and just let it go over the edge. Don't paint the letter and rub up on the tape. Paint the tape and just let the edge of the brush run out there. That's a good little trick to keeping it this as easy as possible. Anyway, we're ready to start the backmasking. Looking at this very carefully. Are we all ready? I like to use the method Walt Prey turned me on 2 years ago. I'm using tin foil with a tape edge. And the tape edge can be, the minimum amount can stick out 1/8 or 1/4 of an inch. I try to use tape that is not real sticky. By the way, the blue stuff is real good, but I'm running out of it. This is another, they're painter's tapes that aren't real sticky. Regular body shop tape with the green stuff, you would not want to use it. If you use that, you've got to rub it up on your shirt first or on your whatever. And because we're going to airbrush this, we don't really need to get too carried away here. In other words, I want the minimum amount of tape edge showing. I don't want to have the whole thing. If I can get 1/8 of an inch showing, it'd be even better. I'll wrap this around the leading edge when I'm done. And one by one, I'll just block these out. And when I'm done, then I'll just fill in between here with pieces of masking tape, or in this case, maybe a piece of tin foil. just leaving the letters exposed. Case like this where there's a leg sticking down, I can remove that and yet still maintain a straight line on everything else. Backmasking is another one of these things that a lot of people have trouble with, but once you get doing it a few times and you figure out where the big areas are that you can just block right out, it goes quickly. What we want to wind up with is, in this case, maybe a couple inches of barrier in case we have some overspray. Now I can just take one by one and fill in between the letters, and that'll be just exposing just the part that we're going to paint black. And a lot of times what I'll do is just go about halfway out over the 1/8 inch tape. I can see right through the tape, so that's an advantage. I can go right up over it. And just work my way right out. Do that to all 4 of the panels. And once that's done, we'll be ready to airbrush. Now with all the backmasking done, the next step on this, we have 2 choices. We could spray this with our small touch-up gun. That would be fine because it's just going to be painted black anyway. Or we could airbrush it. We're out here, and this is really a problem because it's really windy. The wind is blowing, and I'm trying. Whoa! Whoa! Come on, wind! As soon as you hit the spray gun. And the trick with using an airbrush, couple things. If you put the paint on too dry, when we go to backmask this, the paint will come right up. So we want to get a good wet coat on. I don't want to have a dry coat. Then the advantage of an airbrush, you get a lot less overspray, but disadvantage is if you put the paint on too dry, you don't get any adhesion. So make sure, number one, that the lettering is wet. This time of year you get some nice weather, but the wind never stops, no matter what. You're always dealing with the wind. And this is the little airbrush that Will Namora has graciously donated to our cause years ago. We've used it over and over and over again. This is possibly the nicest, and it's an Iwata, the nicest little airbrush I've ever used. Again, with an airbrush, the problem is if you're going to put tape over that paint, it can be a problem because the paint usually goes on relatively dry. And while I'm taking advantage of some of this weather, that you're not going to have this much longer. I'm trying to put a little bit of rush on getting this paint done. Because once that cold weather sits in, and they're calling for it this weekend, as soon as that cold weather sets in, it's miserable painting outside, and it's impractical to paint in the house with all of Karen's allergies and things. It becomes a problem. Well, what I'm going to do is go right back over this. The idea being that I want to get it wet. I don't want to have any airbrush dry. And we will put this aside for 24 hours. We won't work on this till tomorrow. We have our normal shop production work to work on, so we're not going to be tempted to pull this paint off. Always let it dry 24 hours. When I want to do this right away while this is drying, let's just make sure this wall is dry to the touch. I'll give it a couple more minutes. I want to take silver and just put a very light silver accent right down the center. What that'll help to do, it'll just make the lettering a little fancier, more reflective looking, without being a whole lot of extra work. And because this is all masked off already, it's only another minute or so. Sure how much I'm going to do, but I can always go back over it with the black. Whoa, this room. Anyway, now I'll let this dry about 10 minutes and then put a coat of clear on top of this. The reason for the clear is it'll keep this, when we backmask it, from putting tape marks where the silver and the black come together. That gives it a nice little accent. Satisfied with that, I can just basically repeat it on the bottom side of the wing, and then we can put this aside to dry for 24 hours. We'll let that sit out here tonight and dry overnight. That coat of clear shined it up a little, but the main thing is that it blends in. If you look at it real close, it blends in that little silver highlight that we made. Then we'll come back and work on this tomorrow. This has to dry overnight now. I've been raking the leaves until my head is falling off. And look at this. After all this raking, it's still more leaves falling off. One last flower of summer, just to rub it in. The last flower in New Jersey. I tell you, this looks like it dried up very nicely. See, now the idea of having this little accents going down the middle, if it's too wide, it kind of defeats the purpose. And what you really want to have is that it's totally black at the edges, so it looks like it's curved and facing at you and reflecting some light. Again, I'm going to look at this carefully because if I want it to change anything, well, it's all back masked now. This is the time to do it, not to wait till see how the other side dried up. It looks like we've got just the right amount here. I hope I'm right. Here is to get the tape off, and I'll start at one end and work to the other end, but not pull up any of the 1/8" tape. And I want to, even though this is low tack tape, I want to be very careful not to pull any tape up. I don't want to pull up the 1/8" tape because, again, I have that clear edge on it. And so this is a question of just very patiently, while I'm sipping my cappuccino here in the morning, just not trying to rush this too much. I think it's really the best to work from one end to the other end. And if in doubt, if you're not sure to tape, one of the good tricks is always pull it straight back like this. Because what it does, it allows you to see if you're pulling up the tape underneath it. Okay, this is just time-consuming, patience. And what we're going to do, as soon as I pull all this up, is backmask it. It's supposed to be a nice day today. I got up this morning and it was raining, so maybe they lied. But I'll get it all backmasked off anyway. The trick is just not to go and try to get it all off in 30 seconds. And if we're real successful, we'll get it up without disturbing that 1/8" tape. We don't want to disturb that 1/8" tape to the very end. And getting that coat of clear on any faded area, any fogged area, it's good while it's still wet even to just get one coat of thin clear on it. It just seals in all the little edges, and then when you put the tape back on top, you don't tend to pull up the little dots. Now, I tried a lot of other ways over the years of sealing off the edges of the tape with an airbrush with clear, and it just seems like, even though it's more labor intensive, that little way that I've shown, for me anyway, it seems to be the best. And I really do like this method of laying out lettering. The reason I like it so much is I have complete control over it. I hate the idea when I have to go and I'm at the whim of somebody else if they feel like doing it, or waiting for these people to make stencils and stuff. Because we're usually, when I'm ready to do something, I'm ready. I don't want to hear about, well, I'll have it be at the end of the week or something. I want it. Like when you're hungry and you want a hamburger, you want it right now. I just looked to see that I don't have any, even though the edges, see, these look rough, but I haven't lost the paint around, the dope around the outside edge on anything. Again, the rest of it is just patience and just pulling everything up slowly but surely, and then we'll be ready to do the back masking and paint the red. One of the things I try to put on all the tapes is little things that I've made mistakes at in the past that may or may not save you some, well, time, energy, or whatever. One of the things I did years ago, I had masked off a plane on a Friday night, thinking Saturday I'll get up early and paint the plane. Well, what happened, we had a family crisis on Saturday. The plane was already masked off, and because I didn't want to have any smell in the house, I had already put it out in the garage without realizing that it was going to sit in the garage in a real cold environment basically over the weekend. So Monday I got back to the shop, painted it, and this is a true story, and I think it took the wood off the plane. The tape from being exposed to the cold, or maybe it's the temperature change, or maybe it's just the cold, I'm not sure. The tape had gotten so sticky that it literally was pulling the paint right off the plane. Now, I think Brodak dope is a little bit better than other finishes in that regard, but of course it's still just a chemical bond, a chemical-mechanical bond. So one of the things I would suggest is when you put tape should stay on a minimum amount of time. You should never tape the plane and then paint it a month later. You should try to tape it, do all the paint work, whatever, and untape it. Now in this case, we've let this sit about 24 hours, maybe a little less. But I don't think that's a problem. What's a problem is if we let it sit either over the weekend or get involved in doing some other project where it sits for a month. You sure don't want to have that. That's certainly not something you want to achieve. Kind of think of that movie with the Karate Kid movie. Wax on, wax off, tape on, tape off. Anyway, I hope that saves somebody of my many friends that are building and watching tapes and stuff. Because I have made the mistake, and I basically, at that point in time, had to strip the plane back down to bare wood and start all over. I mean, it was unbelievable. Well, I wish I had videotape of it. I wasn't in the video mode then. But it ruined a perfectly good plane that basically took me a whole building season to build. Okay, now with all the tape off, I'm looking around for any little spots that need to be put back down. Usually it's where the tape comes to a point it'll start to peel up. I pressed it all down. Now I need to take and just cover just the lettering, and conveniently enough it's about the width of masking tape, so most of it, except for the curves, most of this is going to go relatively quickly in straight lines, and then we will be ready to paint this, I guess within, I hope it stops raining. I hope we get a nice, this afternoon I'm hoping it's better, but I'll wait, because when I paint the red I don't want it to have any tendency to blush. The red is a very difficult color if it blushes to try to make it look better. Now usually this goes relatively quickly, and if it doesn't clear up by this afternoon I certainly would wait. Because what I've done in the past is painted the Miss Ashley red, and it's a very bright red, and what happens is if it blushes, it looks pink. And we don't want to have Miss Pink Ashley, we want Miss Red Ashley. Anyway, Miss Ashley was a color that we had George Anderson at Randolph Custom mixed for us when we made the original model, and has since become a very popular Brodak color. So we'd like to obviously not show up with a pink plane. I try to cover half of the tape if possible. Again, this doesn't have to be real fancy, and I won't do more than 1 or 2 letters on tape, just to give you an idea of what's involved in doing it. Press each edge down, and once all the letters are done, we'll be ready. Now this goes kind of quickly. I guess you can see the value of making the letters roughly the thickness of the masking tape. By the way, the blue masking tape is painter's tape. It's low-tack tape. You can buy that in Home Depot. Excellent for this kind of a thing. Again, I'm going to do the rest of it off camera. As soon as I have to back mask a little piece of the tail where we're going to paint the red, because I want to do all the red. I want to load the gun, try to get all the red painted in one stroke of the pen before it starts to rain again. Now, my objective here is I need to mask off the little piece of red that's going to be on the bottom of these 2 parts, but to set the gun up and get all the red sprayed in one shot. It looks like we have some decent weather. It's got to mask off this little spot. I can do that without the stab in place, make it a little bit easier. And then what I'll do is I'll paint some of the little parts, the tip weight box, the little gear covers, things like that, just to get in the motion, in the mood, or whatever you want to call it. Make sure the paint isn't blushing. I'll give it a half hour of waiting time, and then of course the next thing, paint that wing, and we put it aside to dry for a whole day. It's weight in gold. Anytime you paint a plane, I always save enough paint to do touch-ups and repairs. Now, in the case of doing Miss Ashley, this really was overkill to have this much paint. But the reason was very simple, is I had two fuselages, and I was expecting that possibly sometime in the future I would make another wing and tail, and I'd want the paint to match. And so by having it come from the same batch or the same container, and by the way, if you pick two of them, if you buy twice as much paint as you need, mix them together all the time. Even yellows, reds, blues, they tend to be out just a little bit. Cheap insurance to have paint if you need to touch up, especially red. Red seems to be the most sensitive color to fading over time. Now that fuselage has never been out in the sun, so you would think this is going to be well, we'll find out if it's going to be a perfect match. Again, we'll find out. To doing reds and whites, I like to spray, or light colors, spray a little bit of thinner through the gun, make sure I'm not contaminating it with whatever color was in here before. In this case it was blue. And even a little bit might change the color just enough that I'm going to see a color change when it's out in the sun. Depending on how much money you're willing to invest in this, it's a good idea to have a gun that never has anything but clear in it, another gun that has reds and yellows and light colors, and another gun for dark colors. In my case, I have one for silver, one for primer, 7 or 8 of them up there. But I usually have one gun set for red, except right now I don't. I haven't sprayed this color red since last year, so I don't want any of the little chips to get in there, and of course I want to strain the paint as I put it in there. It was raining a good part of the day, so I know the humidity is high, and what I'll do is do a little test. It's always good to do a little test. A good part to do a test on is a tip weight box. Like all the Brodak colors, this has a lot more pigment than most paint. So usually, almost always, unless you're going white over red, yellow over it, you really can get away with one coat of paint. Now I'll give this a few minutes to dry. Half an hour is perfect. If it doesn't fog up at all, I'll just paint. If it for some reason fogs up a little, I'll put a little retarder in the mixture and then quickly just spray right over it again. Of course, it's the tip weight box. I want it to be good and wet. I don't care if this has got a little extra paint on it, but you can see what the quality, the finish that you get right out of the gun. Okay, I had just a little bit of fogging, so what I did, I put maybe about 10% retarder in the mix. Again, if it wasn't raining, we had such nice weather. But good to know how to deal with that, that's for sure. And if we need to add more than 10% retarder, what I'll do is just wait. That's a good thing we did our little test again, because we are in very high, I can't even see this, in very high humidity conditions, even though it stopped raining. Again, we're expecting, the problem with all this is we're expecting this very soon to get a cold front, and then we're going to go below freezing, at which point it gets really uncomfortable and miserable to paint out here. Now what I always do is I monitor those first parts, even though it's over a half an hour now, I just don't want to see any clogging up at all. I can remember the old days painting red even over silver, and having to put on 10 or 15 coats to get it red, then putting it out in the sun and it'd fade. Thank God all those days are behind us. Thank you, John Brodak. Thank you, Buzz Brodak. That's it, John. Anyway, notice that I've saved the wing to last, because I want to make sure that I'd hate to paint the whole wing and then have it clog up. That would be, well, not the smartest. Usually what I'll do is take my finger off the last little bit. Oop, there it goes. It's difficult to paint that last little bit. I ran down and did a little color match to the parts that were dry. It looks like we got an exact color match. See, if I was painting the whole plane at once, I didn't already have the fuselage built. But that just gives you one more option of how you can build. Supposing you don't want to build the whole plane, just build a fuselage at one time. Or in the case of some people, I know some of the Europeans, at the end of the year they say, hey, the fuselage wore out, they just make a fuselage and use the same wing and tail. Or a lot of CAS has done that. A lot of combinations like that. Maybe Paul Walker's even done it. Who knows? Take apart planes, offer you a lot of... And the biggest gain is right now when you're painting them. Just painting them in pieces is so much easier than painting them. I don't know how much time you gain or lose, but I know I can imagine trying to do B-25 in one piece, and every time you want to paint it, bringing the whole plane outside and not being able to take the elevators off or whatever. Anyway, just some random thoughts. I really always prefer to have a helper when I do something like a wing, but the other point is I always have to be ready to do things on my own just in case, and today is the reason why. I tried to get a hold of several people who could come over. George, Mike, they're all busy. It's the Christmas holiday season, so basically I'm on my own here. But it's always good to have a technique to work on your own. If we had a friend here, doing a wing, especially on a windy day like this, is a real problem. Now, I'm trying to get a break in between the wind. I always want to get extra on the edges. Oh, there's something about this color. I love this color. Here comes the wind. Oh, you just can't win here. Move to Jersey for fun and profit. Look at this. As I'm painting, the wind is coming up in droves. Anyway, we'll make a big project out of this. This is relatively easy. All the rev will be on by the end of the day, as long as the wind doesn't blow away. One of the things, we'll be finishing this model while we're actually working on the The B25 will be doing whatever I can. See, a good thing is the paint will be dry and I can let the clear sit for a month before I buff it out. A lot of advantages to having 2 or 3 projects to work on at the same time. Always extra on the edges. Oh, that wind is coming. Come on, baby. Don't you even think about it. Brings back some sad memories of planes I made that were red, and a month after painting them, after being in the sun, they weren't red at all. That's not a problem I've experienced. Since I've been using Brodak dope, that's a problem of the past. Got this done just in the nick of time. It looks like it's going to rain any minute. The wind is blowing. But it's done. There's nothing quite like the feeling you get when it's done. Clouds and rain come back. We've got it done. We've got it done. All we have to do tomorrow, rake 2,000 more leaves. Look at things blowing around in here from the wind. Hey, stop blowing around. Wow. Amazing, huh? We have our fan going. We have a fan in the roof to try to pull out some of the cold air. That's basically ready to go. Tomorrow we can take the tape off. It's good to hear from our friend Milt Graham. Milt had a terrible accident with breaking in a motor. I believe he did a real job chopping up his hand very seriously, and glad to see some pictures that he's back to model, and I'm going to read these out. These are some of the power tools in his shop. And Milt has some real high-tech stuff. I'm not sure that I need to have a milling machine, but hey, if you have one, or if you, even better, if you have a friend who has one, then the best part of that is he gets to pay for the maintenance. Anyway, he's showing some of the slots. Now these are his, I'm going to read the caption. These are a wing jig that he's making up. Now from the past, now, looking at a lot of Milt's photos, I can tell you he is very concerned with extreme precision. He said he runs some videos to Scott Dinger. Well, Scott, I hope you're enjoying them. These are precision drill rods. His fixture. And this is the part I like. When the jig fixture finally makes a model. These are his planes. He calls them the Joker. He calls his model the Joker. Very precision-minded person. This is his model called a Backfire. He's going to make a new version with the jig. Notice he's got a 4-stroke in there. Just stay away from the propeller, Milt. Don't get your fingers down by the... Oh man, I hate to even think about it. They can bite. They're like chickadoo. They can bite. And appreciate a whole lot. Appreciate the photos. We always enjoy seeing what other people come up with. There's one thing I always love is 24 hours later, a day later is usually a good way to put it, pulling the tape straight back and seeing that crystal clear edge. Once you get the final tape off, the color match on this worked out almost perfect. I don't think you can realistically, you can even see the difference of the polars. These don't have clear on them yet. I'll have to find that tape, the joint here. Of course, having fingernails helps. The trick I found with oil tape, if you really want to get a reasonably nice edge, the material has to dry for 24 hours first. And to pull this straight back, Now the edge that it leaves, we're going to knock down with a credit card later. But to almost hold the tape dead flat back against itself and go slow. When you rip it real fast, that's when you don't get a nice neat edge. And that edge, that's about as nice as you can get. And the other thing, I just take any kind of a credit card, 45-degree angle, and just shave it. And it'll knock down 90% of that rough edge. It'll just mean that you need less clear. Never, never, never sand the edge. Just hit that with sandpaper, and you may as well, so it'll be pink here, white here, it'll be a mess. You feel the edge with your finger, shave it toward the high. In other words, the red is higher than the white. So I want to shave toward the red side, about a 45-degree angle. You can see the little slivers coming off. And when you're done, it should be, it won't be that you can't feel it, but it'll be as smooth as it possibly can be under these conditions. Then I'm just going to do the little parts first, and the last thing I'm going to peel off the letter, all little tape that's covering the lettering up. Now I'm not sure why, but I got to put the stripes on this. I've put the 38 on the rudder, the stripes on the back, any other details or ink or anything that we want to put on here, and I'm not sure exactly how we're going to do that until we put the whole model together in one piece. Now this is the part, is always look for the tape that's on top first. You don't want to pull the bottom one up first, you want to pull the top one up first, if possible. I want to take all the wide tape off on each letter first. And again, pulling it straight back, nice and slow, is usually the best way to ensure you'll get the minimum amount of touch-ups at the end. I always try to, like a wedding cake, pull from the top down. And now I want to look for the same thing. Well, it's even harder to see here. And we'll see for the first time what the lettering is going to look like and if we're going to like it. Once we get each letter up, I like to do one letter, get away from that. I like to get each letter up. Hey, get out of here. Can't you leave me alone for a while? Come make me a cup of coffee. Those Brodak's gonna have you for Thanksgiving next year. You know what he wants? This is what he wants. Yeah, go ahead, take it. Go sit and go flying. See, he can go flying any day of the year. Okay, so we're coming up on having one piece of this tape up. Where did he put the razor? That's good. Already I can see I kind of like the way this looks with the white border. Now, in the past, we would have had to backmask the white and then brush in the white with a brush. The system that we just used, I think, is the better of the two. I want to get that up. Take a credit card and very carefully just do the shaving thing from all sides and angles. Always best to do one letter at a time. In this case, we have edges going both ways. Looking forward to seeing the new Zetron transmitter. Sergio said he may stop up today with the latest version of the Zetron, which of course we're going to be using on a B-25. He's been working on that pretty well. It's not that hard to figure out what the next step is. Just go right down the letters. My lovely wife has promised to bring me a cup of coffee because this kind of a work gets very boring. And this is really man's work. Right, Karen? So she's agreed to run up. Okay, anyway, we need not go any further on this. Just wanted to show the technique I use to get each letter up. Once it's all up, then I make a decision. Do I like it? Don't like it? Trade it in? Does Peeps trade me in? And this part is really rewarding because you get to see the fruits of your labor here. We spent basically the whole week working on this. But when it's done, that lettering is such an important, it actually, in this case, it adds that thing of imparting motion. When you have trim that doesn't do anything except lay on a wing, you put polka dots or stars or something, it doesn't add anything. When you have something that sweeps, that's why so many people have jumped on a bandwagon of that, I'll call it the BJ type of thing, where there's a lot of stuff starting at the root of the wing. And it's effective. It looks good in flight. And that's always important. Does it look good on the ground? A lot of things look good on the ground, but when the plane's flying, they look like somebody smashed